We want to bring in an expert to talk about this horrific crash with us and hopefully add a little bit more perspective.
Right. Joining us now is Eric Jones, an aviation professor at Lewis University, one of the top colleges in the country, training the next generation of air traffic controllers. Professor, from what you have seen and heard, in your opinion, what went wrong?
So first of all, it's a tragic accident that happened, and I just want to extend my heartfelt condolences to the families affected by this. I would also submit that the aviation airspace is easily one of the most safe airspaces that we have in the world, and it's been 15 plus years since we've experienced an incident like this. And there's robust systems on that CRJ aircraft that prevent and give guidance to the pilots when there's another airplane in the vicinity. ATC is in constant communication with these aircraft, and that system has been true tested for decades, and it's just stunning that this incident happened.
Professor Jones, we just heard a briefing a little bit earlier this morning from the FAA where they said both the commercial plane and this military helicopter were in their standard flight paths. How is that possible?
So each airplane at that altitude is directed by ATC to go in very specific ways. Oftentimes ATC will ask for visual separation, and that means both pilots would need to verify that they have the other airplane in sight. But I just want to underscore that DC airspace is very vibrant, and it's very animated. There's lots of airplanes that are in that vicinity, including military airplanes. Those are two dissimilar flight platforms. You've got an airplane that's a CRJ that's clearly very fast, and then you've got a helicopter that's moving vertically as well as laterally. So it can get animated.
Yeah, and to your point, pilots, in order to land at Reagan, need specific training to do so. We know that a couple years ago, in March of 2023, there was a near miss at that airport, and because of that, there was legislation to scale back the number of flights taking off from that airport, taking off and landing, and that was turned down by congressional leaders. So, that, of course, brings into question, is this airport just too busy? But I want to kind of springboard off of that. Reagan National Airport has its own air traffic control system. So does the military. Is there a possibility that maybe they were on two different frequencies and were not communicating with each other?
So there is two different frequencies. One is a guard frequency that the military would utilize, and commercial aircraft would use a different frequency. However, there is evidence to suggest right now that both of those airplanes were talking with ATC and were communicating with each other. So I don't want to speculate right now, what that communication was and what that looked like. But I will say that the military and commercial aviation has a strong history of collaborating and working together. This was a training mission. I don't want people to think that a training mission means that these pilots were inexperienced. The training protocols in the military are very robust, very rigorous, and those pilots were absolutely capable of successfully completing both the commercial flight as well as the helicopter flight.
And Professor Jones, this is the first major U.S. commercial crash in almost 16 years here in the U.S., but we've recently seen quite a few close calls. What would you say has maybe led to this increased frequency we're seeing of even having close calls, and ultimately what happened today?
Yeah, so great question. So I would submit that that the airspace system is more dynamic than it's ever been, that more people are flying with more frequency than has ever happened, especially since COVID. Traveling public has come back much more robust than I think many people would have expected. However, the safety factors that we put into place, the technology that we have for radar, for ground control, for ATC control is very, very good, and that separation is usually on point.
If you are in that tower, and again, you are training students at this moment to be prepared to be in that air traffic control tower, and you see something like this unfolding, what directive do you give the pilots?
So I can't speak to that. I talked to air traffic control when I was flying and when I was taxiing airplanes as an aircraft mechanic. However, I've never worked in a live air traffic control center. I've done tours of them, And I really want to underscore the professionalism of those individuals. They work very, very hard, and they're incredibly good at what they do.
And a little bit later this morning, we are expecting to have another briefing from the NTSB later today. What more perspective and what kind of questions do you think we can answer when we finally hear from them some of the initial reports of their investigation?
Yeah, so I would never want to speculate on what the NTSB is going to say. Look, this is going to be a difficult investigation simply because it's in an icy water in the Potomac. Of course, there was another incident in Air Florida in 1982 that went down in the Potomac in those icy waters. And anytime you have a water reclamation project, it just makes the process much more difficult. That being said, the NTSB has a long history of forensic analysis. In fact, they're asked traditionally to go all over the world to conduct investigations and to help other municipalities in other countries to conduct their investigation. So I just want to underscore that one of the wonderful things about working in aviation, I want to tell your viewers, is that it is not we utilize what's called an SMS, or a safety management system. And that means we're bitterly honest about errors that we make or things that we do in flight so that we can learn from those incidents. And we talk about them frequently during a pre-flight briefing, during a post-flight briefing. And then we analyze that data to narrow down how we can prevent those accidents happening in the future. And it has been incredibly successful, and almost every commercial airline and the military utilizes a safety management system to offset any incidents like this.
Eric Jones, thank you so much for your powerful insight this morning, an aviation professor at Lewis University in Romeoville. Thanks again.
Thank you.